Hey folks, it's your boy BC. Welcome you back to Wrestling with the Truth. Not a nightmare reviews, but just a WWTT reviews as we're going to be looking at Elimination Chamber 2023. Coming at you from our home country, Canada, and from Montreal, Quebec. And man, oh man, did we ever have a hyped up card for this evening. It was on fire for the whole night, and it really made the event feel special. Of course, the hometown hero, Sami Zayn himself, was in the main event against Roman Reigns. We'll get to that shortly, but we got a lot to talk about with this card. So without further ado, let's get talking about Elimination Chamber. All right, let's start with the opening match, which was the women's Elimination Chamber match featuring Carmella, Nikki Cross, Raquel Rodriguez, Asuka, Liv Morgan, and Natty Neidhart. Now, I'm sure a lot of people, as we were going into this card, were feeling that there was only maybe a couple of favorites here. The big ones probably being Asuka and Liv Morgan, especially after Liv's performance at the Royal Rumble, nearly winning, lasting just as long as Rhea Ripley in that match, setting a record for longest time in the match. And then I guess the outside dark horse would probably be Raquel Rodriguez, who it seems like they're building up to be a force to reckon with here. In the title scene. So the match itself was pretty decent. I mean, it was you're never going to have as an exciting match in the Elimination Chamber with the women as you're going to have with the men. It doesn't seem to get to the violence levels that you find with the men. Although this year you could argue there wasn't as violent an Elimination Chamber match. It was more along the excitement level and the storyline and things like that, as opposed to blood and gore. So I'd say, though, as far as a women's Elimination Chamber match goes, this is pretty enjoyable. You had Raquel Rodriguez really shine for the early part of this card as she was showing her brute strength, especially when she was in there with Natty and Liv and all that stuff. You had some vicious stuff from Natty and Liv with some of the moves they were doing as far as grinding each other's face right through the chain link fence. And then, of course, you had Natty throwing Liv into the actual pods itself. The match really seemed to pick up once we had Asuka enter the fray. I mean, the speed, the viciousness, the crowd excitement itself really seemed to pick up. But of course, we also had Carmella was a big factor in this match, playing the typical heel and just giving you that outside feeling. Are they going to actually pull the trigger on Carmella in this situation? But Asuka, I gotta say, was the I guess the main attraction in this match, and I'm really digging this new look for Asuka. I know it's not new for most wrestling fans who followed her in the New Japan days or over in Japan where she was Kana, but for her, it's a nice, pardon the pun, a nice coat of paint for her with the new face paint and the shorter hair and the new gear. And I like it. She feels like she's got some momentum going again. I've always said this about Asuka. She always feels like someone that you can just break glass, insert her into the main event picture because she feels like a badass, like an ass kicker, and that somebody you can take seriously, as opposed to some people that seem to lose their luster as they're going along. But towards the end, we had some interesting eliminations. Of course, you had the double finisher move, I guess you call it, with Natty and Asuka working over Liv. Liv went earlier than I expected, but that was okay. It's not like she jobbed out or anything. It was just her time, and the focus wasn't going to be on her in this match, which I kind of like the choice because I find the fans rally so much behind Liv that it almost brings down the person who does eventually get the win. And in this case, they want the shine to be on Asuka. I will say in this match, it seemed like Raquel got shine, Liv got shine. You could say Nikki got shine with some of the moves that she was doing off the pod. Natty even felt like she got a bit of shine. She looked like one of the tougher ones in this match. And then you had Asuka herself for the finish. Just looked really good. Got the win over Carmella after there was a brief hint that maybe on an exchange of roll-ups and stuff that Carmella might pull this off. But in the end, it was Asuka. And we got the finger point of doom to the WrestleMania sign because Asuka is going to WrestleMania against Bianca Belair. And I'm actually, I'm pretty happy about that. I'm interested to see this matchup between Bianca and Asuka. I mean, honestly, for me at WrestleMania, I was really hoping that Rhea would pick Bianca to go against. It's just going to be hoss fight between the two of them, but I get it. They're trying to keep the two of them apart, save that for a really special moment. So with Rhea going against Charlotte, there's a built-in story there, so nothing wrong with that. And then, of course, we now have Asuka going against a rejuvenated Asuka, I would call it, going against Bianca, which I think is going to be a good match. So overall, a decent women's elimination chamber match. Lasted all of close to 20 minutes, so they gave them some time to shine in this. It didn't feel rushed. It felt good. So pleased with this offering. Next up, we had the big Haas fight that everybody's been clamoring about all along. They've done it twice before, and now this is, the third time. It's Brock Lesnar against Bobby Lashley, and then this time it's Brock in the face role and Bobby in the heel role. Not sure how I like that. Bobby being a heel by himself. I'd rather him be a heel with the Hurt Business, have MVP behind him, have him at ringside doing the talking for him, but it is what it is. I'll be honest, this match I would say would be the one disappointment of throughout this whole night. There's nothing bad I want to say about this card at all. Even this match, even though it was brief. It was under 5 minutes. All it was spear F5, spear F5, go for the hurt lock, spear F5, and then low blow. And that was it. And I don't know. It's frustrating, but I feel like they're holding back because they want to have a really blowout match at WrestleMania between these two. I've actually suggested they might even go the MMA route with these two. I'm not sure, but it feels like they've just been holding back in these matches. None of these matches have felt like they've lived up to the expectation, and I don't think it's that these guys don't gel. I think they're truly just holding back to have a epic, crazy match at WrestleMania. At least I got my fingers crossed for that. In the end, you had Bobby with the Hurt Lock on, and we were only 4.5 minutes in the match, and then Brock does a reverse mule kick, gets the low blow on Bobby, and for the first time in, I don't know, 30 years, we actually had the ref disqualify for a low blow in a match, but that wasn't. I think the ending of the match, pretty much after the bell, lasted as long as the match itself. We had Brock go nuts as usual. He F5s the referee. Then he goes on and F5s Bobby through the ringside table, and then once again F5s the referee on top of Bobby on the table. So I really hope they're not going with the whole Brock is suspended again, because I don't know. It seems like it's getting worn out, but I think they're just going to find a way to keep him off television until WrestleMania. But in the end, it's still two hosses fighting. It's still enjoyable to see these two gigantic behemoths go at it. But honestly, in the big picture of things, this match was disappointing. I got to say, but hopefully we're going somewhere with it with WrestleMania. Next up, we had the mixed tag team match between from Judgment Day, Finn Balor and Rhea Ripley against Edge and Beth Phoenix. And I gotta say, man, I was surprised with this match. For some reason, for me, the whole Judgment Day Edge thing hasn't been clicking completely for me. It's starting to get better. I think the reason why is because it's starting to feel like the Judgment Day is more of a main event, more of a tougher stable than besides being a jobber stable. And you really got to give credit to Rhea and even Dom for that. I know Dom's kind of comedic foil, but he's brought attention to that stable. He's gotten interest in that stable because of his relationship with Rhea. And of course, Rhea has just been on a roll. She's a brute. She's a powerhouse. She's, just been feels like the de facto leader of that group so far. But I got to say, this is a good match. It seemed like, honestly, the spotlight was on Beth and Rhea. And to be quite honest, I almost want Rhea to give up her title shot against Charlotte and just have a one-on-one match with Beth, because I was really enjoying it. These two ladies, man, they fought hard. They did some crazy, just tough maneuvers to each other. They were just going at it with clotheslines and punches and kicks and everything. They showed off their power. We had that crazy double power bomb spot where it was both Beth and Rhea doing the power bombs to Finn and Edge. We had the glam slam from the outside. We had the spot with the double finisher between Beth and Edge, and I love Rhea holding Finn off from from actually submitting, and then of course at the end you had Dom get involved. He threw the brass knucks into the ring. It was Beth that got to hold him first, but Rhea was able to get the knucks away from her, and then she gave Edge a shot with that. But then we had Edge come back from that. Beth did the glam slam outside on Rhea, sold well by Rhea for sure. You know, talk about selling through the match. She also had that top rope superplex from Beth, which she sold like $1 million. Looked like she was in serious pain from that move. And of course, we had Edge go through the middle ropes, do a tope suicida onto Mr. Dom, take him out of the match, and then how do we get to finish this match? Of all moves, it's a shatter machine from Edge and Beth Phoenix. I guess a shout out to their friends from AEW, Dax and Cash, FTR. But I don't know if it was if that's what it was, just a shout out, or are they trying to hint around to something? Are we trying to start something? By the way, speaking of AEW, I should give props to Michael Cole for and to WWE, I got to say, for their use of Ariel Helwani after all the controversy that's gone on with Tony Khan and Ariel Helwani in the in Twitter land, and where they're going back and forth. And boy, Ariel seemed to burn Tony pretty good just about this. And of course, it made sense for Ariel to be on the air. He's from Montreal. This is his hometown. He is a legit journalist. He has been doing work with both AEW and WWE and doing some fantastic interviews with all people involved. But to get him on the pre-show and a couple little snarky remarks from Peter Rosenberg, and then Michael Cole actually introducing Ariel Helwani as as an unbiased journalist will ask the tough questions, even if you don't want to answer them. I thought that was interesting. But Michael Cole unleashed now without Vince McMahon is something to behold, I got to say. But in the end, as I say, we had the Shatter Machine and the old FTR's move, and you got Beth Phoenix and Edge celebrating their win. And interesting to see where this goes, because it feels like this would make sense for Beth and for Rhea to go at it at WrestleMania, but obviously Rhea's going to be tied up with Charlotte. So I wonder if they're maybe planting the seeds for Beth being the first opponent for Rhea after WrestleMania if Rhea was to win the belt from Charlotte. We'll see. And as far as Edge, not sure where he's going to be doing for WrestleMania, but rumor has it that he's going to be challenging Austin Theory for the U.S. title. So we'll see about that. But yeah, it's just it was a very good match. It was actually very enjoyable, and it was spotlighted the ladies for the majority of it. And I gotta say, I liked it. It was we talk about Haas matches with the dudes, but this is a Haas match between the girls, and man, it was I would pay to see that one again. Next up, we had the men's Elimination Chamber match. And man, so before we get into it, I got to say, so our participants in this were Montez Ford, Johnny Gargano, Bronson Reed, of course, the champion Austin Theory. We had Seth Rollins, if you want to go that route, and Damian Priest. And I got to say, if there was anything that they were doing in this match, and I got to give kudos to WWE on this, they decided they want to make some stars this night in this match, and they did that. You had Montez Ford coming out of it looking like $1 million. You had Bronson Reed coming out of it looking like $1 million. Damian Priest looked great in this. Even Johnny Gargano, he looked good in this as far as some of the stuff that he pulled off. Austin Theory looked great in the end, getting the win. Sorry, spoiler alert, but Austin Theory does retain the title. And then, of course, you had Seth Rollins being Seth Rollins. We got a story for WrestleMania coming out of this. I mean, this match did a lot. It was one of the more enjoyable chamber matches. I know it didn't have the violence of some of the earlier chamber matches that we've seen in the past, but that's fine. So we'll talk about this. But as far as I say, star-making performances for Montez, Bronson Reed, I mean, he looked like a beast in there. I mean, he just... I was surprised the amount of offense that they gave to him throughout the match. You had at one point you had all 6 participants in the match, and they made sure to stress that they didn't have any eliminations prior to the ending or prior to all 6 guys getting into that match. But yeah, I mean, Bronson Reed, I mean, he just looked like a powerhouse. You had some crazy stuff happening with him. For one, you had that double Samoan drop where he had Seth Rollins on his shoulders and then managed to pick up Johnny Gargano as well and put him on top of Seth Rollins and do the Samoan drop. You had that God, that scary looking. I guess I think you call it a poison Karana is what it is. Where Johnny was on Bronson Reed's shoulders, and then I think it was Seth that came off the top rope with a kind of a Road Warrior style clothesline, and the Doomsday Device, as you would say. You had Johnny kind of flip over and was hanging there, and Bronson managed to do the Poison Karana type of move, get dumped on his head without getting dumped on his head, as we say, and getting injured. That was impressive. You also had uh, Montez Ford just looking like Spider-Man in there. He was coming off the top of the cage. Of course, we should mention Bronson Reed too. It took three men to eliminate him. They were saying four, but I don't remember the fourth. But you had Montez do a super kick. You had Johnny team up with Montez do a super kick, and then you had Seth come in with a super kick. So a triple super kick. It felt like a Young Bucks match, to be quite honest, followed by your Seth Rollins curb stomp, and then finally you had Montez coming from the top rope with the frog splash to put an end to it. Also, I mean, Montez, talk about star making performances. He does the scaling like Spider-Man to the top, the Elimination Chamber, does kind of a reversal where he turns himself inside out and then drops from the top of the Elimination Chamber. Very cool looking maneuver. And you got to remember how big Montez Ford is doing this. I mean, the guy has got to be a legit 6'4", 6'5", 250 pounds or so of solid muscle coming down on these guys. That's not an easy feat, and it was quite impressive. We also had some funny moments in this. I mean, after you had a battle of all four participants that were remaining, climbing up the walls of the cage, you had Seth and Johnny just take a little bit of a breather on top of the pod for a moment, which was kind of comical. And then, of course, then Seth is the one to break it up as they started a chop fest. And then from there, you also had Johnny do a Hurricane Rana from the top rope, or from the top of the pod, I should say. Just again, crazy stuff going on. Um, Austin Theory throughout this just played the perfect heel. He got beaten up when he needed to get beaten up, but he also got some good offense in and managed to pull off some impressive maneuvers. He did that maneuver with Bronson Reed on his shoulders when he was trying to do the A-Town down, and he managed to get him pressed. It took him some strength, but I mean that was a big man to do it. So a very impressive feat. Kind of reminded you of John Cena, which we keep hinting around to Mr. Cena being involved with Theory. So you never know what'll happen. And then of course at the end, as Montez Ford, who seemed like he was injured, maybe got knocked out during the match, but we come to realize that may not have been the case. It was an opportunity to have the cage door open longer than needed as they tried to help Mr. Ford out of the ring. I hope that's the case. I hope that he wasn't truly injured, but it looked like he did give the Iggy to the referee, give him a little tap on the leg while he was down the mat to say that he was all right, which allowed for that evil snake Logan Paul to jump in, do a unbelievably well done buckshot lariat on Seth Rollins, and then followed up with a curb stomp to cause Seth to get eliminated by Austin Theory, much to the delight of Logan Paul, which obviously sets them up for their WrestleMania match, which, again, we're coming out of this match with some stories. We're coming out of this match with people being made looking like stars. That's all you ask for from these type of matches. So this was a fantastic match in the end, with a little call out to last year. As we remember, poor Austin Theory getting F5'd off the top of a pod. It wasn't a very nice finish for him, but a little bit different this year as he retains the U.S. Championship. Looks like $1 million. Now we just got to find out what's the story for Austin Theory going into WrestleMania. There's a few different options. You could have Montez challenge him for the U.S. title based off of this performance. Maybe even a Johnny Gargano, as you do have the story from their NXT days. Anything. Damian Priest, maybe he goes after. Maybe you have a four-way. I don't know. Or maybe it is John Cena that's coming for the title. But interesting end, or sorry, not an interesting ending. It was great ending to the match, but interesting storylines that are coming out of this. As I say, you had some star making performances from everybody. So bravo WWE on this match. And finally, the main event of the night, Montreal's own Sami Zayn against the tribal chief, the head of the table, Roman Reigns, the head of the bloodline. Could you ask for anything more? And I just want to give a standing ovation to the crowd here in Montreal because they were fantastic all night. They weren't just about Sammy, they were up and at him and cheering for everybody they need to be cheering throughout the night. But of course, it was the man himself, Sami Zayn. He brought that crowd to their feet. I mean, we also saw on SmackDown the night before on Friday night that I mean, I think it was something like a 5 or 6 minute ovation where Sammy couldn't even talk because the crowd was going so loud with either the cheering or the ole ole ole, everything. Now tonight we had not only the oles and the cheering, but we had a interesting chant on Peacock for Roman Reigns. A little "fu Roman" going on. So yeah, the crowd was vocal, the crowd was into it, and they were cheering on their son, their native son. And I mean, it just felt so big fight feel. It was amazing. You had Ariel Hawani, who's a Montreal native. You had George St. Pierre in the crowd. That's a Montreal native. You had Sami Zayn's wife. You had the crowd that was just bananas. You had Sammy, who was treated like a rock star throughout the week. He's at Montreal Canadiens games. He's doing radio interviews, TV interviews. He's all over the place. And then you have this hometown crowd that's just absolutely nuts for him. It was fantastic. It was just so good a feel. I mean, he even had the WWE talking about the history. They talked about um, Pat Patterson was mentioned. They mentioned Bruno Sammartino losing his title to Ivan Koloff, who was from Montreal. Sorry to break it to you, folks. Ivan Koloff wasn't Russian. He was French Canadian and he was from Montreal. So, I mean, we're talking everything. They talked about the 1993 Stanley Cup champion Montreal Canadiens twice. This was crazy, but it was made for such a great storyline to this match. So, I mean, you talk about storylines. You had Roman Reigns just taking it to Sami Zayn right in front of his wife in the crowd. I do like that they actually didn't have anything physical or anything like that happen with the wife. It was just more like the Diana Smith. I think back to when Davy Boy and Brett were going at it back in the 90s, and you had Diana that was just so troubled to see, her husband in the ring and her brother in the ring, and just but they didn't have to get to physicality of threatening or anything on the women or the wives or anything like that. It just was, you showed the drama, and then you actually showed the happy side, her cheering on Sammy and him giving her a kiss at ringside when he got the advantage. I mean, Roman was great in this with the trash talking. I mean, I think he might have went close to 5 minutes of stalling before they touched, and just working the crowd, like letting the crowd cheer themselves out, and then him talking to the crowd, and then him showing the facials where maybe it is frustrating him and maybe it is getting to him. But fantastic as we went throughout the match. Of course, what a match it was. Great match. Lots of false finishes, lots of drama to it. You could see Roman's frustration building. And like, this should have been easy pickings for him. Should have been, but it wasn't. Sammy just, it was almost like that crowd in Montreal was willing him to kick out each time, which is just amazing. An amazing feeling to watch this, and then to see Roman starting to break down. You had Sammy pulling out all the stops. I mean, the moves that he was pulling were just spectacular. You had the drama that was going through the night, and then of course we had the old fashioned ref knockdown, and not just one but two refs. But then we had the interference from the Usos, who weren't even supposed to be there. And hell, as a Canadian, I didn't think they were allowed to be there. I thought they were banned from the country because of their criminal record. But apparently, that's been lifted. I don't know how. Maybe old Vince is back in the fold and making some deals to make this happen. But yeah, so we had the drama there. He had Jimmy come in and interfere and hit his super kick and hit his frog splash or the Uso splash off the top rope. And you had Sammy kick out. And then of all people, when the ref's down again, you have Paul Heyman come in with the chair. And then who shows up? But Jey Uso. And again, the storytelling with this feud, with this whole bloodline angle has just been unbelievable because we still don't have an answer on what the heck is going on with Jey. He didn't actually physically do anything to Sami. Roman tried to make him do the dirty work, hold the chair, take the chair to Sami, but it never happened. And then, of course, Sami accidentally spears Jey as he's trying to spear Roman after Roman was distracted with the whole Jey drama. Ends up spearing Jey out of his boots. But that was enough to provide Roman with the opportunity to take advantage of the distraction. He gets the chair, just destroys Sami with the chair, and then finally hits a spear to get the pinfall, the 1, 2, 3 on Sami. Just unbelievable storytelling. And then people will say, "Oh, I can't believe I'm so upset that Sami didn't win the title." I'm sorry, folks. Sami wasn't going to win the title. This wasn't about Sami winning the title. This was about still having storyline with this bloodline angle. It was about the drama. It was about the fans. It was about making Sami a main event superstar, which is what they did. And one thing I loved about this whole thing is hearing Sami do his interviews in the ring before this matchup, before Elimination Chamber, and I could just I could almost picture Mick Foley with the way that he was doing his talk. He was just so passionate, so excitable. That's how you make a superstar. You don't always need a championship around somebody's waist to make him a superstar. And this was not going to be the time to pull the trigger on Sami. I know a lot of people would disagree. They would say they should have pulled the trigger because he was so hot. They feel like they've got a Daniel Bryan situation, but that does no good to Cody Rhodes. And honestly, it's not the story they need to tell at WrestleMania. Cody's got to beat Roman at WrestleMania. He doesn't. It just wouldn't work to have Cody beating Sami or even the two of them facing off at WrestleMania. You need this. Roman just destroyed, well, not destroyed, but just took down the hero of the day in Sami. He's just become an even bigger villain. And that means that it's going to be even bigger and sweeter when Cody is the man to topple him. But after the match, we weren't done because we had we had Roman trying again to take advantage and force Jimmy and Jey to well, not Jey, but Jimmy to destroy Sami. And who shows up but none other than Montreal's own Kevin Owens shows up for the fight, shows up to save his best friend Sami Zayn, to the point that he's kicking ass. He's taking advantage of everything. He's beating up Roman. He's beating up Jey. And it was so bad that guess who gets in the ring? Paul Heyman throwing probably the worst punches I've ever seen in the history of punch throwing. But that's what you'd expect from a Paul Heyman. He shouldn't be getting in there and delivering a Scott Hall-esque punch to Kevin Owens. He should look like he doesn't know what the heck he's doing. He is even served with a stunner. I was amazed to see Paul Heyman take a stunner. I wasn't sure he would be able to do that, but it was better than the one that happened to McMahon at WrestleMania last year. And then you had the moment that you had Roman get beat up by Kevin Owens. It looks like that Kevin is going to do the final blow to Roman to take him out, but no, it's not the case. You've got Sami Zayn who ends up hitting his haluva kick to Roman Reigns. And so you get that final sweet revenge for Sami on Roman. He takes out all his frustrations. And then you still have so much drama. You still don't know what page that Sami and Kevin Owens are on. You're still not sure what's going to happen there. What's going on with the Usos? Are they part of the bloodline? Is Jey part of the bloodline? Is he friends with Sami? What's going on? I think we're going to lead to, as I've been talking about all along, I think it's going to lead to Sami and Kevin Owens teaming up at WrestleMania to face off against the Usos for the tag titles. I could be wrong, but that seems like where it's going. It seems like to make the most sense of what's going to happen. So it'll be interesting to see what happens between Jey and Jimmy and Sami to get to that point. But I feel like there's something going to be happening that's leading to it. As I say, you had that image, that one last piece of drama where you wondered, was Sami going to jump Kevin Owens instead of jumping Roman? But it was pretty clear that afterwards, when Kevin steps out of the way, lets his buddy deliver that kick to Roman, it was the final nail in the coffin of that relationship with Sami and the Bloodline. And then we close out the show with a distraught Sami soaking in the cheers of the crowd. The nice thing was this didn't take the air out of the arena. It was more a chance for the crowd to really appreciate Sami and to just show their love for him and the respect for him. And another great moment, of course. And then you had that kind of walk away with Kevin Owens looking back at Sami looking at Kevin. Still nothing that has been said. No touching, no nothing. So we still don't know what's going to happen. So guess what we're going to have to do? We're going to have to watch Raw and SmackDown this week to find out what's going to happen, which that's the point of this. You want to have intrigue going into your WrestleMania season, and we've got a lot of time still to build WrestleMania. But the nice thing was, coming out of this show, we had some indications of what's going to be happening for WrestleMania. Well, it looks like we're going to be getting Seth and Logan Paul. We know now that we're going to be getting Roman versus Cody for sure. I'd say we're probably looking at another Lesnar Lashley matchup. I don't know how Bray Wyatt's going to fit into that because he had mentioned that he would want the winner of Lashley and Lesnar. So we'll see what happens there. Of course, now we know that we've got Rhea Ripley against Charlotte Flair in that matchup. We also are looking at Asuka versus Bianca Belair. So now it's starting to fill itself in for the WrestleMania card, and still much more to go. Probably going to get Sami and Kevin Owens against the Usos. Who knows what else we're going to get? Austin Theory is going to be involved somehow with someone. Lots of intriguing storylines, which is going to give us something to talk about and to wonder and speculate about over the next six weeks as we go into WrestleMania. So I gotta say, as far as my opinion on this card, I'd say the women's match, very satisfied with that. The Lesnar Lashley match, that was a bit of a disappointment, but I think I see where that's going. The mixed tag match was great, very enjoyable. The men's elimination chamber match, thought it was fantastic. Lots of stuff coming out of that, and of course, A++ on this main event with Sami and Roman. I know some people are going to say no, it was not the ending that we wanted, but it's the ending that had to happen, and Sami's all the better for it. Don't worry about that. So for my overall grade for this Elimination Chamber, some people may not agree, but I don't care. I'm giving this show an A, not an A+, not an A-. I'm giving it an A, and by giving it an A, I'm saying you got to check this out. It was entertaining. It was enjoyable. I enjoyed it from the beginning to the end. There wasn't a point where I wanted to just go take a bathroom break or just say enough. I've had enough, or go on my phone and check Twitter or anything like this. I was into it all night. Like I say, lots of stories pushed through, lots of enjoyable action, lots of stuff to further storylines for WrestleMania. And we have intrigue. We have a reason to tune into Raw. We have a reason to tune into SmackDown. So, as I say, great job, WWE. Very enjoyable Elimination Chamber. I'm interested to see where you're going to go from here. I'd like to know, if you want to leave your comments down below, let us know what you thought your grade was for the show. Did you enjoy it? What was your favorite match of the Elimination Chamber? Did you enjoy the fact that Sami didn't win? Did you think he was going to win? Just let us know everything. Tell us your thoughts on Elimination Chamber. But for now, that's all I've got. So if you're on the fence about whether you should watch this pay-per-view, watch the replay, go for it. It was a great show. It was a solid effort put together by WWE, and the action was great. And we're looking at a really good momentum going into WrestleMania season. So thanks a lot, folks. Appreciate you tuning in, and make sure that you subscribe and click the bell to make sure that you're notified for any further videos from us folks here at Wrestling with the Truth. Thank you, folks. Take care.